r/ask Reddit. What is at the top of your bucket list? I want to see the Milky Way in all its glory. I can remember the first time I saw it. It took me completely by surprise. I was just walking across the camping grounds to my tent when I happened to look up and there it was. I was struck with such emotion that I started crying. I never even thought it was possible to see it like that. I thought all the pictures I saw were only computer enhanced or taken from space or with a telescope or something. But there it was, large as life. And I was seeing it with my own eyes. My friend found me crying in the middle of the field, and when he asked me what's wrong, all I could say was, "It's so beautiful." I find it so sad that so many people are never able to escape the light pollution of the city to just stop and watch the sky in all its glory. My girlfriend and I try to go out a couple times a year to just appreciate it. It depends on where you are, tbh. Where I grew up, you'd never see the Milky Way, ever. I live in a different city now, but you'd only need to drive an hour or so to get away from the lights. I want to buy back the house I grew up in. It's where I was happiest in my life so far. I think I would like to die there. I'm not elderly, sick, or suicidal. I would just like to leave, when my time comes, from the place I truly felt free. I do too. Except it's my grandparents' home. I moved around a lot while growing up, but their home always stayed exactly the same. One of the few constants I had growing up. Every time I remember some detail about how it was decorated, I write it down. You know, just in case I actually manage it one day. There is an episode of King of the Hill in which an old woman is trying to die in the Hill's house. It is so ducking funny. She's like, "I only need 20 minutes. Let me offer this bit of caution. Home is a time as well as a place. That's not at all meant to discourage you. Just please be at peace with that idea beforehand if you ever get the chance to fulfill your wish." Buy my family a house. A functional, nice one. I've always lived in a terrible place. My house was small, and something was always broken. My landlord wasn't useful and was always running away from paying her mortgage. So bailiffs always came knocking, threatening to change our locks if we didn't call her to pay her mortgage. I went to a secondary school where the pass rate was so low, it was almost a laughable matter. But I really just wanted to get my grades and leave. I'm a medical student now. I'll graduate in 3-4 years depending on if I intercalate. I'll buy my family a house with good central heating, double glazed windows, a garden, a functional oven, an electric hob countertop. I want to get them a fridge freezer that dispenses ice, a shower that allows you longer than 10 minutes before the water goes cold, a shed, rooms with double beds. I live in a university dorm. Little things like a working oven, shower etc. gives me so much joy. This is beautiful. There's nothing like having a great place to call home. We are also looking for a place right now for our kids to grow up in. We're in an apartment, but we are looking for a house. Joining the 300 Club. First you go to Antarctica, go to the South Pole Station and wait for a day that is 100 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. Then you go the sauna, crank it up to 200 degrees. Stay in as long as you can and then run out wearing nothing but boots, thus subjecting your body to a 300-degree temperature difference. Then you take a pic of your frost-covered body by the flag of the South Pole before running back into the sauna to warm up. Jesus, I thought you meant Celsius. I should pay more attention. That's the true 300 Club. Visit Wyoming again before I totally lose my eyesight. My left eyesight is gone. My right eyesight is 50/50 due to type 2 and diabetic retinopathy, among others. What is in Wyoming that you want to see again? Grand Tetons, downtown Laramie and Cheyenne, Yellowstone NP, taking car rides in the north and NW part of Wyo, grasslands, good hiking trails. I got to go to Cheyenne and Laramie once in 2014 and I was hooked. Also Cody WY has the Buffalo Bill exhibit too. Take a side trip to Thermopolis. Skydiving. As someone who's done it before, I can say it was the biggest rush of my life. Definitely worth the price. As someone who has done it too, I agree with what this man has said. As a third guy who has done it, I cannot agree enough with these two previous people. A great time. As someone who has never done it, I want to, but my fear of heights is too strong. It's not as bad as you think. It's weird. You're so high up. It's like your lizard brain doesn't even recognize it as a threat because throughout evolution, our species never had to worry about falling from such heights. Honestly, I was way more scared bungee jumping. I'm scared of heights too, but that scared feeling thinking about it is the worst part. Wife and I did it a few years ago and decided to do the highest we could go. 18k feet, 90-second free fall. It felt like floating more than falling. You should do it, and once that chute is pulled, there's no calming experience that even relates to it. It's quiet as you effortlessly glide to the ground. I want to feed a seal a little fish. Or writing a book. Writing a book is the easy part. Writing a good book, that's where things get tricky. That was near the top of my bucket list and I did it. Close to finishing my second book now. Both were a ton of work, but well worth it and immensely gratifying. Meet my real dad. Derek. Dad? I've been stuck at IKEA for 20 years. I have two. One for realistic things and one for unrealistic things. The unrealistic list is topped by going into space. At the top of the realistic list is seeing the northern lights. I think commercial space flight is closer than we realize. I think it's pretty high above the ground. Traveling to every continent in the world and various countries. I'd love to see what's all on this planet. Do it. The only continent missing for me is Antarctica. Traveling the world makes you appreciate the differences in cultures while realizing how similar we all are as well. Be careful. Travel became so addicting to me that it's hard to even call it a bucket list item because it never really feels complete in my mind. I can go to Japan 25x and still feel like I want to go back and experience more. I spent most of my 20s in a cycle of saving up and quitting jobs so I could go on long backpacking trips in hopes I would get it all out of my system and be ready to settle down by my 30s. However, each trip just fueled my desire to see more, so I changed my entire career to be able to work remotely and have extreme flexibility to travel. It might just turn your whole life upside down. Visiting Norway to see the northern lights. Wanted to go since I can remember and I'm finally going on Wednesday. Excited is an understatement. Hope you have a good time there. I want to go to Norway as well, so enjoy it for me while I can't. I want to own a cabin in the woods and be 100% self-sustaining. I sorta did this when I got out of the army. I needed time alone, away from society and the stimuli. I had about $12,000 saved up from my previous deployment, so I found an ad on Craigslist for a hunting cabin up north. It was equipped with a gas generator and a porta potty. I made it 6 months. There's a lot I took for granted, like easy access to toilet paper and internet. And whenever I'd hear a noise outside I would be terrified knowing there weren't any neighbors for at least 20 miles, and no way to call for help with no cell reception. Worst comes to worst, the only thing I had was my truck, an old IFAC army first aid kit, and my shotgun. During winter it was in the back of my mind that if the truck battery died I could very well die. I bought a battery charger later on. Without the truck I had no way of keeping the generator fueled, or buying the essentials I needed to keep myself fed: water, vegetables, flour, and 12 gar shells so I could maintain my diet of flatbread and squirrel rabbit stew. I did those runs into town about once per month. It was my opportunity to shop, send the rent payment, take a proper shower at the truck stop, and hop on McDonald's Wi-Fi to download some music, pictures, movies. The hardest thing to keep stocked up was water, since I used it to drink, wash clothes, occasional sponge bath, and cooking. I had to ration that shit carefully. I could only afford to keep the gen running for about 8 hours every day, but it was enough to keep my laptop charged. I played a lot of RimWorld, and heat the cabin for a few extra hours. The insulation was surprisingly good. I supplemented the space heater by chopping wood for the furnace, which was extremely exhausting. Long story short, it was exactly what I needed, as previously I had much disdain for society. It gave me a new appreciation for human interaction and the amenities that come with living on the grid. I give the experience 6/10. Though I think it was especially rough for me because I'm a huge gamer, and I maybe didn't have enough planning and preparation as I should have. Having a few years when I'm not under the constant stress of living paycheck to paycheck before I die would be nice. Right with you on that one, mate. I really want to see a blue whale in my life. I also want to see Irish reunification, but that's a bit of an ask, so I'll stick with blue whale. Irish reunification seems like such a totally long-term thing, but IDK, depending on your age, it might be something that happens in your lifetime. Think about the crazy geopolitical changes we've seen in our lifetime. I think there's still more in store. Brexit might be thing that precipitates it. Hopefully it'll be peaceful reunification. Make music and release them for people to listen to. If anything I want to do in my adult life is to making music, even if it's just a part-time job. To know you made something of your own and people liking it might be the best feeling ever. Music is my dream also, but I am very shy. Hope it works out for you. Good luck. See, feel snow. Oh boy, there is a ton of different snow to feel. Tiny ice pellets that hurt. Big fluffy wet snow. Fine champagne snow. Snow that falls but never hits the ground. Snow that comes in sideways or blows around. There's an entire world of snow to experience. Grow a tree I can make my own coffin out of. Just carve yourself a spot inside to crawl into and die in. Leave everyone where I live and start a whole new life in Sweden. We will welcome you with arms wide open. Going to whack an open air in Germany. I wonder what someone would think if they'd heard this comment rather than read it. I just have one thing. So it's first and last technically. I'm visiting all of the US national parks. Maybe the top is the next one I'm going to visit, which is probably going to be Olympic or Pinnacles. This one's dumb, but honestly I don't care. I was born in 1999. I wanna live until I'm 101 years old so I can say I lived in 3 centuries. That is all. 3 centuries and 2 millenniums is a pretty big flex. Beating the odds. I know that sounds strange. I am 1 year past my last chemo treatment with no evidence of disease. The 5-year survival rate for the cancer I had is 40%. I plan to be part of the group that boosts that shitty statistic. Kind of a pun since it was colon cancer. Stage 3. Travel to Japan. I love Japan. It was always on my list but I never got around to it. Too expensive. Don't have time. No one to go with. Always had an excuse. Then last year, admittedly whilst drunk, I booked flights. It was sensational. I loved every minute. So much so, I've been learning a little Japanese and I am going again next month. My only regret is I didn't go 20 years ago. Just go. Do it. You won't regret it. For your information, it doesn't have to be expensive and language is no barrier. I'm no expert on Japan but PM me if you have any questions. To visit Antarctica and hike the Appalachian Trail, or something similar that takes months to complete. I grew up in Detroit, never really traveled before, was pretty much a city kid, joined the military to get out of Detroit and was stationed in Alaska for 6 years, met my wife, fell in love with traveling, hiking and camping, been to Japan, Spain, Germany, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, and Ireland so far. I guess Canada counts too since we drove across it from AK to SC. Anyway, I have always wanted to go where nobody I know has been before, and to get to Antarctica and scratching that off our little scratch off world map would be amazing. I also just want to spend months hiking, at most likely since I've hiked tiny parts of it, just to say I've done it. Not necessarily for bragging rights, but I had nothing worthwhile to talk about my first 21 years of life. Just in the past 11 years I have a lot more to add to conversations. So just to have something to add to my life experiences to make up for those 21 years is kinda my goal. I can't really decide between my top 3. One day, I definitely want to reach the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. Sometime after college I'd like to spend some time working for Sea Shepherd. Just support a cause very important to me and along the way see stuff I'd probably never see otherwise. And I'll definitely visit Nashville within the next 5-7 years. I want to open a comfort food restaurant in Ireland. It would just be me behind a full round bar with a grill top, some deep fryers, and stovetops. Menu would change daily based on what I find at market and feel like cooking. Entertainment would range from relaxed music, to fight nights, to big media releases like God Before the Bad Seasons, The Mandalorian, the occasional soccer match, etc. Menu scope will be anything from American Continental, Mexican, Tex-Mex, Bronx Soul, or Italian. Learn to swing dance. My wife and kids are the only people who have ever seen me dance, and they know it brings out a happiness they hardly ever get to see. I've always thought swing dancing looks like a lot of fun and very cool. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.